Okay, good evening, everyone. It is, what's today, Sorella? February what? Oh, whoops, I turned off the background. I meant the overlay. Hello, there we are. What's today, Sorella? It is February 18th. Wow, we're past the middle of the month already. And here we go. Welcome to the show. Changing the layout a little bit with how the camera's set up. Anyway, almost done with my February of horror events. I got one more this weekend, which is, what is that? Dead of Winter. Undead of Winter was last weekend. Dead of Winter this weekend in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I still got a couple of horror shows in March, but just a reminder, you can always go to my website, look at the events page. It'll tell you everything. My schedule is almost full, so keeping everybody abreast of that is going to be easy. And also, there's still a lot of them. But I'm in New Jersey again in 2 weeks for the New Jersey Horror Con and Film Festival. And then what's after that one? I think I'm in New Jersey all of March, right? No, I'm going to be out for in Massachusetts again for Super Retro Fest. That's toward the end of it. But New Jersey Horror Con. What else was March? What else was March, Sorella? Oh, no, that's not true. Connecticut. I'm in Connecticut on the 9th, right? March 9th for the Grimoire Studios retitled show, The Gothic Market. Then I'm in New Jersey for Cherry Hill Monster Mania. Then what's next, Sorella? Then it's RetroCon, right? So I'll be away again. And then I'm back for EcclesiaCon, which is at a church in Palmyra, New Jersey. That one's going to be a gaming show. And then April. So yeah, go to my website, jmdesantis.com events. That's where they all are. Anyway, didn't get a whole lot of time to work on the new artwork last week after the show, because my show was on Friday and Saturday. So yesterday was my first day back in the studio, and I was kind of tired. So I was mostly working on other things. But where are we? This one? Nope. Switch it around, right, Sorella? Okay, so still working on the cat and the Orloks, but I do have the other Orlok laid out. The mirror image, which Sorella is in front of. No surprise here. It's almost not a surprise. It's almost fitting that you're right in front of the cat piece that's sitting there. Right. All right. So as Sorella moves out of the way, I'll start working on these again. I got to be honest. I'm more in the mood to draw today, but I got a lot of inking to do. I feel like these got to get done, and then I got to move on to the next ones, and the next ones, the next ones. A couple of freelance gigs are coming in, though. Can't speak about them all yet, but they are coming in, right, Sorella? Aren't they? Aren't they? I believe so. Hey, Jim, how are you? I'm doing good. I got your email. I'm gonna be. That's actually the weekend I'm in Danvers for Retro Fest. March 22nd. I don't know if I'm going to be able to attend that event. I know it's terrible. Every time there's something conline related. I will tell you this though, and I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I've just about finished getting a lot of the stuff in order. So it appears that the only language I'm working on that's going to be more rigidly like the like a real world language is going to be the one that's based on Arabic, which is the second daughter in the series that I'm doing. And it doesn't have to be immediately done. It's also the one that has probably the most coined words in it too, which is crazy. I just have to get those root pattern morphologies together, and I still want them to resemble, I still want the system to resemble Arabic. Of course, Arabic has the most robust pattern system. But I've just about copied all of it down, or at least gotten the information that's the most standard to Afro-Asiatic and the Semitic languages, just because I want to keep like some of the standards of it. And yeah, once that's done, the way I figure it is the Duero language, the dwarf language, is going to have a lot of invention, because that, just like the triconsonantal roots, a lot of their language is going to be based on a system of threes. And having looked at Semitic languages, it could work just fine. I just got to decide what things I want to have show in the verb conjugations. And then the way I figure it is the Egyptian language probably will have the least robust of the root pattern morphology, which is the one that I'm trying to get to for the Chadiana book. I just mean that I know you really, I know a lot of times you tell me to not get so focused on real world aspects of the languages. I just, but I'm getting very close. I wanted to have, the problem is always the grammars. And again, I say that having been very good with grammar when I was in Italian, but I guess just because I'm so far out of my element, and as far as like, you know, Semitic, Dravidian, and Bantu languages are much further from English than Italian is. And of course, I'm going to be getting in there eventually with Uralic languages, but I don't need that to be done immediately, and the Sino-Tibetan family. But yeah, I'd say I'm pretty. I'd say more reasonably, I have the. I know I've said I'm close many times in the past, but I think like now I actually have like a good reason to say that. Because man, once the pattern system is established, then I can really start creating words, because as long as I have the triconsonantal roots, and of course, you know, I'll have some biconsonantal in the dwarf language and in the one that's going to be more Egyptian. I'm going to be strictly triconsonantal. Well, I might have wanted to be strictly triconsonantal with the dwarf language. I don't know. I got to figure that out. But I've already figured out certain things in the systems as far as like even future tenses and how they make sense in my own in world. They make sense, and you know, there's been a lot of that stuff too. Just sometimes I'll take actual real world stuff, and then I have to figure out how in universe it works out. You know, just for example, although I don't have this, like, where was plate mail like created and why? You know, if it was going to be created by a certain group or in a certain region, I would just have to create a new in-world and universe reason for that. So some of the morphology rules I'm trying to come up with in universe reasons why they exist, as long as it fits. If it doesn't, then I create a new rule altogether. which is to say, the dwarf language is going to have a future tense, and then the other two daughter languages do not have a future tense. They use, sort of like Arabic does, a separate word which can be attached to or precede the present tense, but they each borrow from a different language. So the Egyptian language has a different language it'll borrow from for that future tense word, and the Arabic language will have a different one as well. Well, the Arabic-based word language. So yeah, like I'm figuring all that stuff out. I know it's not word creation, but I still find etymology and like the history of a language very interesting. It's just the damn whatchamacallits are the worst. The grammars are the worst. It's just I think I wouldn't say it's my least favorite, but I would say it's the most concentrated I have to be on it. But dedicating my whole morning from 8 to 11 or 12 is great because it forces me to, well, first of all, it gives me a lot of time to work. And, I don't have to use all of that time, but it is useful to have that time set out. And then I'll start getting into the other language families when this is done. Once the grammar rules are in place too, then I'll have an easier time figuring out. It's kind of like, since the Arabic family, the Arabic language comes third in the series, I basically have to establish the dwarf rules and the Arabic rules, and then work backwards and forwards to figure out what's going to be in the Egyptian language, or the Egyptian inspired language. And then that's it. It's all done. All the people coming in to watch again, they're like, oh, damn, he's talking to Jim again about languages. Why do I come to his live stream? Just joking. I find it I feel better about the languages than I have in a long time. I felt really good about them during the pandemic when I was when I was restructuring the families and figuring out the history of the languages and when they came into existence and everything. But this part of it is the best I felt about them because, again, I think I explained in the past, I kind of was working on them way too piecemeal, as if I was like writing a novel by writing different chapters and sometimes only sections of chapters out of order. Too much of it was just like, oh no, don't go away. No, absolutely don't. I wasn't saying that for you. I was just saying, you know what? The languages are part of my creation, so if they're going to come on this live stream, they should be privy to that. I'm sorry. I meant to turn this one on too to brighten that up a little bit. That's better, isn't it? No, don't go away. I love talking about this because then it just helps me get some of it, it's almost like checking in on, okay, how are those ideas flowing right now? Are they working? Anyway, yeah, I'm very happy about it. And then I can finally put that one page of dialogue to rest in Chadiana number 3, get it out, move on to the art I got to do for 4, besides the fact that I actually have to do art for A Kid in a Comic, also Chadiana. And then, yeah, this just doesn't get held up anymore. Again, I'll still have to put about an hour a day into it, but it won't have to be 3 hours anymore, 4 hours, whatever I wind up doing, 2 to 3 hours usually. I think the one day I worked 3.5, but I wanted to. Like, I'm looking forward to it now. It's not as dreadful. So, yeah, they're getting done. I would like to, it's only a week away, and I would like to I would like to hit my goal of the end of February, which as long as the root patterns are established, I have enough notes on roots I want to borrow and roots that I created as stand-ins, which I still like, or other words that I had already created in the past that, it should go relatively smooth, It should go relatively smooth once I get this done. I can't believe I really thought that having a root pattern morphology was going to be maybe the simplest one, but man, it is really complicated. And I don't know if you get this, Jim, because I know you're like me, you're not really a linguist. Technical terms start getting me dizzy almost. Like once I'm looking up research and I'm like, okay, yeah, this one, these 9 nouns show stative and these ones are plural perfective, and this one, this one's absolutive, this one's juicetive. I start like my brain starts going in circles because I'm just like, I start forgetting what certain terms mean. I have to like look them up again and again and again. I think I've said that before. That's where the grammar part gets really complicated for me, because objectively, I can understand the sentence structure, he hit himself. But I think that's the reflexive tense or whatever. Like, if you put down reflexive, and I'm only remembering it because I had to look it up today, I'm like, okay, what's the reflexive again? Because now I don't even know what this article or this book's talking about at the moment. That's where it gets a little bit crazy. Which is funny as a writer because, there are plenty of other things I understand about grammar, but the technical terms, my God, that's the part that really kills me. That's what slows it all down. Yeah, terminology is really rough. And, it gets a little confusing because sometimes certain sources, it's not all of them, right? Like passive and active is like a standard term used throughout. But there are some terms that there's multiple terminology that's used to describe the same type of thing in a language. And it's just like, why don't you guys just pick one term and use it? Like, well, why do you have to do this to me? Because it really gets crazy. The IPA can be a little bit like that too. Every once in a while, there's a symbol that'll be used, and it's like, well, and I understand that it's somewhat subjective in the case of certain sounds, but it's just like, oh, it doesn't quite sound like that in this one. It's diacritics and notes and stuff are sometimes used a little bit per the language, not per the there's it's not inconsistent because there's certainly like a but it's almost like if it falls into this circle of things, you can use this term. And if it falls into this circle of things, not everything is so. So, it does. It just adds a little bit to my consternation while I'm trying to just get a few things in order. But anyway, that all said, I'm getting a better understanding of Semitic stems and the system of those, because that was always getting confusing to me because they use different letters for different types, but then Arabic uses numbers rather than using the letter of the form. So, but I found some documents that kind of like link them all up, and I'm like, okay, no, this makes sense. And then there's certain things that just seem to be standard in languages. Like it seems like most Semitic languages use a M at the beginning of a word, like a M say, like a ma sound to create nouns that are, I forget what it is, but it's like objects or, is it places related to the thing? Something like that. So it's like, okay, well, if that's pretty standard, I can borrow that directly, or maybe just change the M sound to either a liquid or another nasal, and it would still follow the same idea, So that's basically where I'm at with it, getting all those notes in order. And yeah, there's still going to be quite a bit of invention within it, especially because one, there's not enough known about ancient Egyptian to have a complete picture of it as far as certain things within the language, how it works. So I'm forced to have freedom there. And again, the Dweroish one, I wanted it to mirror Proto-Semitic as much as possible, but it's getting borrowings from all over the place, and just like I said, in-world things. So we're getting there. And then I just had to build enough grammar of the Dravidian and Bantu stuff, which is not that hard, just because in world, the more Egyptian-like speakers would have originally been speaking the mother language of what I have, Dravidian and Bantu. So they might have certain things that show up in the Egyptian-based language might mirror at least the thought processes and the grammar of the other ones. It doesn't have to be definitive. It just might be like a loose thing, such as there not being a future tense, because as it turns out, and it works out really well, right? Neither Arabic nor Dravidian nor Bantu, like at least Proto-Bantu, have a future tense. They have a past tense and a non-past, and then they have different ways of showing future. So I figured, well, maybe humans don't have a future tense. So each language that they speak is going to have to figure out a different way of showing it. Anyway, getting very technical here, but I like all that stuff. It just also drives me crazy at the same time. Anywho, the work's getting done. I can't wait to share more of it specifically. Yeah, well, of course, and I do know that part of it. And there's always been certain in-universe things. Again, I talked about the word Ra, which I had defined a long time ago as meaning great, and it just had shown up so many different places. Of course, I changed its source and where it began like 3 times over. But there are words that I already coined that were just versions of real words, or just words that I decided I wanted it to be. Of course, Ra was loosely based off of the Egyptian god. But I think when I first was creating or had a concept of languages, it was just going to be an Elvish, a Dwarvish, a European, and like everything else. And Ra was from those languages, and then it just became a lot more complicated and obviously more representative of the real world, even the ancient real world. It just had some more and had a lot more going on with it. So Raw has changed its source a couple of times. Originally, it was going to be an Elvish word, then it was going to be a language from the gods, and then I think at this point I've settled that it's going to be a Dwarvish word. So, and it gets borrowed and reused in other languages, you know. So, it's probably one of the oldest words, or it's one of the oldest words that has a great history to it, and how it's changed even in the real world to fit into languages. And then, of course, you know, I've talked about it many times before. I have a whole book written, a book and a half written with all names in it that are way too attached to. So I'm going to have to work them into the languages. And then I have old versions of some of the languages, which I still want to use some of those roots and words to create from. So, you know, there's a lot of material besides the real world research I'm doing. You know, Chadiana is not the only name that I had come up with. And so, you know, there are other ones from other cultures and such. Then I got to start naming things too. I have a whole map drawn out, 2 of them, 3 of them, with only like loose names put in because I don't want all of them to be translated into English on the maps. Anyway, about what I'm drawing here really quick. I don't want to start inking this over much because I keep getting asked about doing a coloring book, and I think this page might be good for it. I've been doing it a lot where I scan in my inks before I color them. So I'm trying to decide exactly how much of it to ink and outline before I scan it. And then I have to finish inking it after that and then paint it, which is a bit intimidating in a way because I'm not used to having to. I don't work like that. There's some of my work that's kind of intuitive. Well, you guys have seen when I work on here. Sometimes, I mean, I always go in with a plan, but like when I start inking, I just start inking. I don't think, okay, well, we're going to outline first and then we're going to go in and fill in the blacks. Like I don't do that. So this is, I'm having to work differently here. So anyway, I need some ideas for what to put on these bottles, though. I have the skull and crossbones with the little explosion behind it. I thought that that's a lot better than actually saying exploding or explosive potion. I got a bat over here, which I had to work a little bit so that it doesn't look like the Batman symbol. But I kind of need some ideas for some of the other some of what's on these other bottles here. You know what? God, I can't help myself, can I? I should have put like my signature on one of these. I usually try to put it in the artwork so that it's a part of it so it doesn't stick out as much. Gotta sign my stuff so that people don't steal it, like my Nosferatu piece that I posted. Tell you, that's something that AI is good for, doing like reverse image searches and such. Finding where my 13-year-old artwork is still being used on without my permission. I found a couple of sites. The one was very cooperative, though. They were like, we'll put the attribution if you want to keep it up, and you can send us a new file so that your signature isn't photoshopped out of it. Which I got to do that still. I got to send them the file. Um, Anyway, Jim, how are things in your life? You always come in and I just like rattle off a whole bunch about my language stuff. Ooh, you know what? Actually, if you don't mind, Jim, what's the Atlani word for witch? And if you don't have one of those, what's the Atlani word for cat? And just throw that right in here. Little Easter egg. If you don't mind me doing that. If you do, no worries, I won't do it. No. Oh, that is a long friggin' word, man. Okay. Sorry. Talmenshunek. Talmenshunek. Talmen. I have to make this bigger. Oh, yeah. What am I talking about? Talmen. Talmenshunek. Okay. People are going to look at that and say, what does that say? As long as you're okay with me actually putting that on the artwork, though, Jim. I don't want to, like, throw an Atlani word in there. I have to make a note of that, though, on the artwork. And I mean that actually because, one, when I put it in the book, both the coloring book and an art book, I want to make sure that people actually know that the word is from you. Talmenshunek. Oh, Hopkins. Oh my God, I'm an idiot. Thinking about my letter. There you go. Spirit seer. Oh, oh, it's Talmentionor. Okay. Oh, sure, but I got to give you credit. If I publish it, I would certainly would say the word, is from uh, the Conlang Elani by James Hopkins. I don't even references. I try to be explicit with that stuff. I don't just take without making some note of it. It's an O. It's an O if a diacritic. Anybody that buys this artwork's gonna see all this these notes on the back too. Someday. Okay, and then what do we got? So it is Tallman Shun Ek, which is equal to Spirit C okay. It's a nice word. I have a tendency a lot of times to create 4-syllable names, which I think is a little bit unwieldy for people. Chadiana being a great example. I don't know. I'm not sure why. Especially because I'm the type of person that usually in life gives people nicknames. But I don't know why it is. But I like long-winded. I do. I mean, I remember when I wrote to Mark Rosenfelder, I was like, I have a language, and the name of the language is Jimbaya Wutu. I said, is that too long of a word for the name of a language? And he was very good about it. He was like, why would it be too long? It can be whatever you want it to be. He said, although, yeah, in life, usually they might have a shorter way of saying it. He's like, it doesn't matter. You can make it 6 syllables if you want. And I was like, okay, keeping it then. Although I have thought about changing it to Jiwutu. I just think Jimbaya Wutu sounds great. That's the Bantu language, the Bantu-based languages. Jimbaya Wutu. And long-worded. So it's very Finnic, I guess, in that sense. It's one of the few things I know about Finnish. Well, actually, Dravidian languages can be the same because agglutinating languages can get long with some of the, especially if they are apt to affix a lot of things. All right. Let's get this Talmentionor party started. Talmen. I want to make sure it's spelled right. God, the lettering is so tight. I hope people are still able to read it. Actually, yeah, of course. Hey, and I agree. That's why I'm doing it. Jim, do you have a middle name? It's not all gonna fit. It'll be cut off. Just an initial. You don't have to tell me the name. The J will get in there. Edward. My father's name is Edmund, which people can't seem to get. Not you. I just mean like in general, people want to say Edward. Because I guess Edmund's not that common. There you go. Your initials and words will be on that little one in the corner there. Somewhat. Forever immortalized in an unknown artist's work. Oh, they probably are. Well, I have two of them, but I guess I just never looked at the author credit because I knew the author. But yeah, that would be probably, well, it obviously is correct. I never looked at that part of it. Which reminds me, I still really should be gracious and read those. Since I have been better about reading, I've been using my morning hours to read. It is not so daunting even to read the larger volume. But I just have a couple on my. Oh, you're welcome. Sometimes it's just providence, right? You just happen to be here, and it worked out. You're welcome. I mean, you've given me a lot of help and encouragement with my languages, so I feel like little Easter eggs like this are nice. And again, on any published version of this, I'll make sure credit is given because that's just me, you know. It's the way I am. Right. So yeah, I do want to finally read both your books. I have the what I'm going to probably misstate as your large volume on Atlani and its history, the history of its people. But then I also have the smaller book, which is, I think it's one of their epic poems or their main poem. But yeah, I just want to get through this other Ravenloft book, and then I got to read Perdido Street Station, and then after that, I think my right. I got to read another book for a job too. Third next book, but I'm reading for at least an hour every morning, so you know it's really Eden's Day is a book of your English poetry. Oh, is that what Eden's Day is? Just the English poetry? I really thought it was I thought it was an Atlani book. I mean, that one should be. You know what? I could probably even fit it in before Perdido Street. That's what I should do. It's short. I could read it in a couple of days. And that's not rushing it. That's just, because I'm making sure. It's a little life hack I'm doing right now. Although it's not much, I got myself a pedal machine, and I've been in the mornings making sure that while I'm reading, I'm pedaling. I kind of have nervous energy anyway because of my anxiety, but so it got some of the energy out without being such a taxing exercise that I can't concentrate on reading. There are some Atlani poems in it, though. Okay, well, that's good, because then I can read a little bit of both. Sorella. The hand is needed so that I can draw the whiskers, the eyebrow whiskers on this cat. On this cat, which is going to be a black cat, but I gotta leave he or she uninked at first so that when it goes in the coloring book, people can color this cat whatever colors they want. The actual publishing of that coloring book and my art book are still forthcoming. Haven't decided when. I haven't really thought about how many pages I want on them. Especially because although I buy art books, I've never bought an adult coloring book. And so, I'm just trying to work smarter, and if I can reuse certain artworks that I'm making to create another piece of content, I don't see the harm in that, as long as it's used in a different way. So, because if I had just used the same artwork exactly the same in two different art books, I feel like that's kind of a cheat. Sometimes you republish things, but there's a lot of times where you don't want to just endlessly repeat the same stuff. Yes, Sorella. You're a wonderful cat. Everyone on the stream thinks so too. But sometimes, every once in a while, you gotta let me get work done. And she's still like this, even though I'm spending more time with her lately. I try to make sure I am giving her attention and or playing with her multiple times a day now. I kind of got away from it while I was traveling so much. I felt bad. Right, lady? Gonna be away again for a few days, but yeah. So I'm surprised she's as needy, but she is. I was only gone for one night over the weekend because it was just a 2-day show. And I only needed one night at the hotel. And yet, this is still the way it goes with you, huh? This cat is too much. Yeah, you're really good. Yes, you are. You're the best. You're the best. Maybe instead of that, this one's got a lot more going on. That one should be up top for now. It's more to look at. I don't mean you. Don't mean you. I mean the artwork, lady. Anybody tuning into these things, watching me just pet you or hearing me talk to you is not what they're here for. It's not what they're here for. Not at all. Mm-hmm. All right, can I draw again? Maybe. Can I go back to inking here? Or are you gonna fight my hand? You gotta fight my hand. Yes, you are. Okay. Yeah, well, fight or not fight, I need to do this. Oh, yes. You're so good. Okay. It's weird because I'm trying to figure out exactly how much detail, like in the fur even the shadows on, like, I don't know if I should draw out the bottom of that, even though that's all going to go in shadow. But for the coloring book, it makes sense. How much wood grain do I put on it? A lot of those little things. It's like, one of those cases where I'm creating something that I'm not the audience for. But I know this seems like a long, long time. But as long as that often stolen Nosferatu piece has been around, that was 2012. I've been asked to do a coloring book for that long. I always get right on those requests. Well, the requests kind of come in drips and drabs. It's kind of like one person or two might have mentioned a coloring book in 2012. And then maybe in 2013, nobody did. And then maybe in 2014, there might have been one person. Then maybe three in 2015. Like it just kind of goes like that. So I don't always get on the request because other than Chadiana, when I just created the first painting with a female Indian swordswoman on it, I've never had multiple requests in a short period of time for something. Even the tarot deck hasn't been like there's been more requests for that, but it hasn't been substantive in the sense of, but the tarot deck is something I got to get to too. It's kind of like, where am I right now? I'm trying to get languages done and some of these pieces done. Then more Chadiana artwork with the issues coming out. And then I got to move on to writing some more books. And probably some more Chadiana as well. And once I finally hit that point in the writing portion, I should be caught up enough on the art portion that I can start working on the tarot deck. So I figure we still got a couple of months before I can start it, which may or may not work out great for my timelines, but it's the way it is. And I still feel like I have those other two ink books I got to finish too. Wow. Yeah. That's why I need a clone. That's why I need a clone. And it's why my own brain drives me nuts sometimes. But getting on a regular creating, you know what it is? At one point I got so obsessed with creating my schedule that the schedule in and of itself kind of became the focus, not so much the actual work I was getting done. I can sometimes go too far with things. So those are usually the times when I like ease up on my schedule a bit, but I've been a little too eased up for too long. Having the schedule now is getting things done. So, I think all of these pens are not in great shape for this. Anyway, we're going to keep moving. I guess I could do more with her hair there. I am not sure this is how I envisioned it, but again, her hair is going to be black in the final version, so I can't fill it in right now. What a weird thing. I can't fill in the cat. I can't fill in the witch. I can't fill in the witch's hat. All of this because I'm thinking in terms of coloring book as well. Oh, I said 2 freelance jobs. I meant 3. I forgot about the other one. The other one's very small, though. One is book covers, one is a short comic, one is just some small pieces of artwork I'm going to be doing. The small one starts next month, though. That much I know for sure. All art freelance jobs. It's a funny thing. I love to write. I've gotten plenty of freelance art jobs, a couple of editing jobs, but not really any. I don't know that I've ever had a freelance writing job. If I think about it, I have never written for somebody for hire. It's always been my own stories getting published, or up for it. It's just I've never been approached. You know what it is? I meet a lot of writers who need an artist. I don't meet a lot of people that just need to hire a writer for something. Which is fine, but I would love to do some freelance writing. That would be fun. Now I know there's some people out there that are just actively looking for that work, but I'm not always actively, I'm always open to work. I've never been so busy where I just had to say no. But I'm not usually like actively looking for it. It's more like as it comes in. But I might have to start changing that method anyway. Only because I don't want to have to rely so heavily on conventions. I love doing conventions, but I still would like to be able to afford to do less of them. Not saying that I will or won't do less of them. Just I want to be able to afford to do less of them. I probably won't do less of them though. I like doing them too much. As tired as I get. I do like going to them. I like meeting people, seeing friends, and just trying to have her hair semi-mimic the situation with the smoke up there, A little lower, you say. I say. What do we got? Gothic Market, remaining passes. What? Okay. I gotcha. It's one of the conventions. I can look at it later though. I don't think I need to immediately get on it. Speaking of conventions and liking to do them, there's a couple of smaller ones I've found that are so good for me that I just want to do them as often as I can. One, they're fun. Two, they're lucrative. Three, they're relative. Well, the one is relatively close by. The other one travels around, but when it comes close by, it's definitely worth it. Okay. I want Jim's little thing to be showing up there. All right. Yeah, this is the good one. This is the one with the good tip. Okay. All right. So, Jim, I was asking you before if you're still here. How's everything going on your end, if you don't mind sharing? Everybody happy and healthy? I hope. The other problem with coloring books is I should really be making these lines thicker. I usually want thicker lines so people can have an easier time coloring and preparing for your talk for the language creation conference in Maryland. Waiting for spring. Yeah, well, I'm a big winter fan. Well, I hope the preparations for the talk for the conference are going well. I'm really disappointed that the dates for that moved and I still can't make it because I have a convention. See, that's a big reason why, as I was just talking out loud before or thinking out loud before, that I would like to be able to afford to do less conventions because then I wouldn't have to sign up for so many. And, if one year I said, well, I want to go to the Conlangers conference, I can just go do that. Right now, it would only work out if it happened to be on and off week, but obviously it didn't turn out that way this year. But I would have loved to come and see you speak and support, if nothing else. Besides all the cool stuff and people I'd meet there. Cool stuff I'd see, people I'd meet separate. I wouldn't meet people and stuff, of course. That's just a ridiculous statement. At least in English, it's ridiculous. I'm sure some languages, meeting stuff might be the way to say certain things. Why all of a sudden the Sesame Street songs just popped into my head? I don't know. Whew. We are getting down to it here as far as what's going to be outlined for the coloring book versus what I'm going to be actually inking in the end. Are your actually, Jim, are your collaborators speaking as well, or is it just you speaking at the conference? Is it a group presentation? uh, oh, that's great. Makes it maybe a little bit easier. You don't have to do all the talking. I always find it easier, when I'm not the only person talking on a presentation or panel or what have you. Although usually panels aren't so formal that you prep a whole talk before you go. Ugh. Sometimes you have an idea of questions that might be asked in advance, but it's not all planned out. We each have distinctive approach to conline. I think that's pretty cool. That you guys are doing that. I know you said it has its challenges, which I would imagine it does, but I don't know. I just think of I know it's so far from the way this works, but I just think of something like Ghostbusters, where the late Harold Ramis was a non-believer, yet Dan Aykroyd is very much a believer in the supernatural and that kind of stuff. And the two of them came together to write this script and this story about people, a group of guys hunting ghosts, a group of scientists hunting ghosts. So I just, in a weird way, it kind of reminds me of that. Just people with different approaches and thoughts on the subject coming together to create something. It's just sometimes those collaborations work out really well. So I'm curious about this project. All the more reason why I regret that I can't be there. Oh my God. Okay. Inking a circle. Always one of the great ones. Sorry, my face is right there in the camera. Always. Oh, it still is to a certain degree. Right. All right. I think I have to strengthen the outline on that and the shapes up here. Probably a good idea. Okay. There we go. I guess I'm gonna have to draw those shells in. Is that just turned too much? Maybe I knocked it a bit. It does seem like I shouldn't be getting in the camera every time I lean forward. Doesn't usually happen. Typically. All right. Doodly doo doo doodly doo. Oh man. Okay. 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 So here we go. Mhm. And trying to give it just enough hair or indication of hair. At least for this version. I think I said it even when I scan my inks, though I don't usually do it in terms of, well, I'm specifically going to reuse the outline of this. I think a lot of my artwork already works as it is, but this one will have too much black in it for it to work as a coloring book page if I add all that black in at the outset. Anyone who owns a cat can relate to this. Anyone who watches my live streams and sees Cyrilla's antics can relate to this, or at least understand it. Oof. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely can. And I mean, she's not above this kind of stuff either. She knocks stuff off of tables all the time. I always say to her, too, so you didn't like that there? That's okay. Or I'll just say something like, hey, you did it. Knocked it on the ground. She has never knocked any. Oh, no, that's not true. She did. I was going to say she never knocked anything over and broke it, but she did. She broke my Vampire Hunter D resin bust, which was already a little damaged from moves and an accident my brother had with it. But yeah, she thankfully I was able to get some stuff to repair it. But yeah, she knocked that off of a bookcase once, and a couple of pieces went sailing along for a bit. But I found them. But other than that, no, she hasn't broken anything that I can think of. All right. Other things to do. Taking a break on the wood green for a second. All right. So actually, this is going to be in perspective that way. So really, not that. So, right. Here we go. I just realized, in other words, what I'm saying about this piece is normally I would be inking like this, adding in shadow areas at the same time I'm outlining. But because of the two purposes for this one, it also means I have to be extra diligent about cleaning up the outline as much as possible so that it makes for a pretty clean page. I might need that other one. It's so weird to erase out all my shadow marks, which usually help inform my inking before I really need to, before I ink, because I'm technically going to have to draw them back in, or some of them at least. But it is giving me an idea now that maybe I won't make the witch pure black. Maybe I'll actually just make her shadows a very dark color, since she's more in the background. And I like doing that atmospheric sort of thing. I might though do a little bit over here, just because it is a cauldron. Might be able to add a little bit of texture to it, even for the coloring page. All right. Heavy lifting. Okay. This is also weird to me. Cleaning up a drawing this much anymore. I mean, I guess there's been times where I've done it. I shouldn't say it's that weird, but there's a period of time I was never cleaning up my drawings. I actually had a couple of professors in college that only felt you should erase when you're adding a highlight. Of course, different type of drawing, but and then of course there were one or two that just they didn't clean up the drawings even for illustration work. I have decided doing a little bit of both is good. Sometimes there's definitely lines you do not need, but if I was just going to go right in and ink this and color it, I would not be doing this much erasing. I feel like this live stream has been half of just cleaning this thing up. Hey, Rel, welcome. Welcome. I'm just working on cleaning up the cat and stuff. And you're back to cause trouble. To wreak havoc on the stream. Oh, lady. Maybe put your butt down so people can see the cat and the witch and Orlok and Ellen. I'll bet you there's people that tune into this stream and just because of timing, all they ever see is this cat's ass and her tail. And they just probably think, is this all this guy streams? Is he ever drawing? Or is it just always his cat's ass? Right? Right, Rel? You probably like that. You're probably like, yeah, I'm the star. I'm the star. Do. Sorry, lady. I decided I wanted to brush this. Yeah. Oh, man. That tail goes hard sometimes. What are you doing? Right in the face. Right in the face. Let's see. All right. It is the Cirilla show after all. You're 100% true. Right about that, Jim. Thanks, Cirilla. I really need my seltzer at the moment. There are times, though, I don't know if I have like the most minor cat allergy. She can be up here whipping me in the face when I'm trying to work so much that the minute she leaves, I'm just like coughing and hacking, and I gotta go get a drink and get up and walk around a bit. When I first got you, you didn't shed at all. And then you grew up. After like maybe that first or second winter, then it all changed. Then you started the shed. You know, of all the things you could take a liking to, the tripod for the camera is not necessarily the best. It feels not because of Cirilla. It feels like this particular piece is taking longer just because of how choosy I have to be about the lines I put down, more so than usual. All right, lady. I can pet you later, you know? You could let me get a little bit of work done. This is how we eat. This is how we get food on the table and a roof over our head, as if I'm drawing. So there's got to be a little give and take, huh? You got to be creating something. Hear that helicopter? Mm-hmm. Go check it out. I don't think you'll be able to see it from here, Sir Ellen, but you can go try. How long has Cirilla had me? This is going to be year 7. And she is going to be 7. Right? 2018? Yeah. She was born in early September. And I only know that because when my coworker who first had her took her, well, my old coworker, she's since retired and I'm no longer teaching there, but when she had her checked, the best estimate was that she was like 4 to 6 weeks old. And then I got her, no, or was it 2 weeks old? I think it was 2 weeks old. And then when I got her, she was an additional about 4 weeks. So she was a tiny little thing. But I've had her since very early. Since very early on. And she, I guess, sort of knew she wanted to come home with me because she went right in the carrier when I visited her for the second time to pick her up. First time was just to see if we got along. And then it seemed like that went well. So I came back with a carrier and then she got in the car. And it's the only time she ever got in the car. Well, it's the only time she ever got in the carrier willingly, and the only time she ever got in the car without any fuss. And that changed as well. So, yeah, 7 years. She's been here 7 years in October, but she was born in September. So, maybe mid-September. I don't know. I'm a terrible father. I have to look at her papers to see when the estimated birthday was. It was kind of written in somewhere. It might be more mid-September, early, maybe around the 10th, 13th, something like that. I had it memorized, and then, as happens when you're living with someone in COVID, you just kind of forget everything. So, and I think that I put her papers in my important paper file bin, but since putting it in there, I have moved some stuff around in my apartment, and I believe it's buried right now under other boxes, which is not necessarily the smartest thing, but I can't immediately get to it. Actually, I got to take a picture of this and send it to my friend Ashley, because I was sharing a couple of these sketches, like sketchbook sketches of upcoming artworks that I wanted to work on. And I had a couple different ideas for the cat picture, but it was in an Instagram chat, and she said, you have to do the cat knocking the bottle over, because my mother would love that picture. And Ashley has been a good supporter of my stuff. I haven't vended. She goes by the Primitive Witch on Instagram. I haven't been a vendor at a show that she's been a vendor at in a while, but she often comes out to shows I do in South Jersey. So, but I first met her at the New Jersey Horror Con and Film Festival in Atlantic City back in 2023. There were a few people I met that weekend. Quite a few, actually, now I think about it. And I'm still friends with most of those people, as I see them fairly regularly. One or two have dropped off, but most of them I still see. I feel like the ink got a little damaged on that. Oh man. Feels like a lot for a coloring book page. At the same time, I don't know, maybe that's normal. I'm not sure why people ask me for a coloring book. I thought usually adult coloring books were more like designs. I can't think of anything like mandalas and stuff like that. But I also have no idea where I'm going to get it printed. As the guy that owns a small publishing company. But I'll make it happen. God, it's so weird to take all those lines off like that. All right. Let's see. Make that just a little bit lighter. This feels like such careful work. Again, not my usual sort these days. Gonna have to do some fixes on that green smoke. And then, of course, when I take this into Affinity Photo, I'm gonna have to gray that out or maybe turn it black. I guess I could pump up the contrast on it. Just about enough to do that. This reminds me, and I assume you're still here, Jim. Have you created a writing system for it, Lonnie? Because that's the other thing. Eventually, I want to get into, I guess, what's it called? Logographs. But that's actually where I first got interested in languages, was just kind of like seeing different symbols in different languages. It was less the sounds than just seeing symbols and wondering what they said, what they communicated. But yeah, eventually I do want to make writing systems for all of them, but not right now. At some point, I suppose that's going to be necessary, since I am working in a visual medium. There will inevitably be a sign or something in the background or foreground of something that I'm going to need a writing system for. But I will try to avoid it in the short term until I can have that developed. I should say until I've developed it enough. You tried. Yes, Ilani has print and cursive scripts, and a friend's masks. Oh, made 5 fonts that you can type in. Oh, that's wonderful. I've also thought about making my own fonts, which would be great. Actually, it's funny how Tolkien inspired me to create my own language, because I remember when I got interested in languages, I may have said this before. I mean, to some degree, I had an interest in like Japanese characters, which I know there's more than just kanji. There's like 3 different systems I've learned that they write in simultaneously. They use different systems for different words, which I think that's interesting. Maybe I could borrow that idea into my Dwarvish, since it's a system of 3s. But anyway, yeah, besides being interested in like Japanese characters, just because I was like interested in Japanese culture. I mean, I still am, don't get me wrong. But it was just, I remember seeing a long time ago, I guess they made Lord of the Rings action figures, but it wasn't for the movies. It was just, I don't remember the company or whatever, but every single figure had the name of the character, but then under it, it had, I guess, Elvish script, which I thought looked, I guess, Arabic-esque. And I can see now how maybe I had that idea, but I just remember being fascinated by the script of it and just thinking, that's so cool. Like, they have their names written in a different language. You know, I hadn't read any of it yet to know. No, it's okay. I know it said made. I have days like that, Jim. Believe me. I have days where just nothing I type out comes out right. Actually, I have a friend, Paul, who does taxidermy work. Very good stuff. And he's been a great help for me when it comes to growing my business and conventions and stuff. But either one of us will have a day when we're texting back and forth that one of us, sometimes both of us, just cannot spell that day. You know? In college, I had a couple of writer friends, and we always used to joke the same thing, like, you know, writers can't spell, and that's what we have editors editors for, which, I'm not saying that you should learn how to spell if you're a writer and watching this, but your 5 inspirations were E.R. Burroughs, J.R. Tolkien, Robert E. Howard, and H.P. Lovecraft. Edgar Rice Burroughs. So I have a couple of his books, but I never read him as a kid or a young man. And I've had some of his books sitting there for a while. All of the other ones are inspirations of mine. And actually, to a certain extent, Lovecraft did create, I guess, language elements, although I've never gone through it meticulously. But see, that's what I wanted to avoid. I always looked at Tolkien as the gold standard because, like, I even knew back then, I had read Tolkien before Lovecraft. I was like, oh, people have broken this stuff down linguistically and it doesn't hold up. So, I was like, well, I don't want people to be saying that about my work. I say, now that's a weird thing with me, and I always tell people this, is that I'm not a huge sci-fi fan. Although I grew up liking Star Wars. And I guess there's small elements to maybe Masters of the Universe. And I don't mean the film, which even heightened it more. But yeah, like sci-fi was never a big thing to me, which is why people tell me I might like Dune if I like Star Wars. And having seen the films, they're probably right. My parents wanted to see the films too, so I wound up seeing them before I read the book, which is not the way I intended to do it. But again, my to be read list is long. But anyway, I'm working through it again. Yeah, but I do have The Princess of Mars, and I have Tarzan, right? Those are both Burroughs. And there is some other sci-fi stuff I like. I have like almost like a weird order. I'll read anything horror, and for the most part enjoy it. There's some horror that I don't like. Fantasy, I'm very picky about, and if I read something I don't like in fantasy, I really don't like it. But with sci-fi, it has to be a world and a concept to the science fiction that I actually like or want to read. But I'm doing my best to try and find more sci-fi stuff to read that I might enjoy. You can see I'm really working my way through that right now, but I'm reading the second Ravenloft book, so just working through some fantasy. But again, I try to do a fantasy too because I am just so damn picky. I've said it multiple times on here, but it's like I tried out Michael Moorcock's work. I did not care for it. And mostly because of linguistic stuff. I felt like some of the names of the people from Elric's home, I'm like, those would not exist in the same. Those names are there's too much disparity in the way the names read that I don't think they would exist in the same culture. It bothered the crap out of me. I always forget the name of the guy. Something Wagner wrote the Kane stories. Kane, like the barbarian guy, didn't care for those. But I like Fritz Lieber's stuff, the Fafford and the Great Mouser. I think, I've only read 2 of the books, but I think those are good. I still want to read Mervyn Peake. I have 2 of the Gorman Gass novels. Haven't read them yet. Welcome back, Sorella. Just in time to get in the way of the wood grain. Oh my God, it's 10 o'clock already. I didn't even realize. I've just been like so into doing this. Wow. Is that what it is? You're like coming to get me to come to bed? That could be it. Wow, I didn't even realize it was so late. Let me look at all the people that have been coming in. Yeah, I got to go now too. So I probably won't be doing the live stream next week, only because I might still be in Cape Cod visiting my friends Steph and Carrie Ann, but I'll be back on the March 4th. Okay, so 1 week off, but I'll be doing my whatnots for anybody that watches this. That my whatnots, because I'll be back Cape Cod by Wednesday. But anyway, yeah, so 2 weeks from now, I'll be back. Got a couple of shows coming up. If you're in New Jersey, come see me at the New Jersey Horror Con and Film Festival in 2 weeks. And this week it's Worcester, Massachusetts for the dead of winter at the Mechanics Hall. New Jersey Horror Con and Film Festival is in Addison, New Jersey. Anyway, have a great night, everyone. Right, Sorella? We're gonna get the music going, right? Right? I'm leaning forward to do that. What do you think? Oh, it's already playing. It's just been playing on silent for a bit. No, it just kicks in. All right. Well, everyone, have a good night, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Yeah. Be well and happy reading. Give me some recommendations for good sci-fi. Thanks. Good night.